This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
What's going on, everybody, on this Friday, Black Friday, November 28th. Hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and now we are fully in the holiday season. If you celebrate Christmas, well, get to shopping. Don't do what I do, which is essentially wait till the last second every single year, and I say I'm not gonna, and then I do, and I'm gonna do it anyway this year, even though I say I'm not gonna. So if you are, of course, celebrating, then here we go. Another month or less now until the Christmas holidays here, and we only have about a month left of 2025. We are about to venture into a new year and venture into a new WrestleMania season, which is right around the corner. And again, you could argue that this War Games event, this Survivor Series event, is the unofficial start of some of those stories heading into WrestleMania, because this is a massive star-studded lineup when it comes to War Games matches, particularly for the men, but even for the women. I mean, it is about as big as it can get with the current roster. Outside of course, Bianca Belair is not there, and Liv Morgan's not there. Could you see a return of those two women? One of those two women? Possible. I keep predicting one of those two women for every PLE that has gone by, and I have been burned so far. But even if returns don't happen, we have a huge PLE, 40-some thousand tickets sold. It's going to be a massive event that I would invite you to go ad-free for this show at patreon.com/WWE podcast, or head on over to our Apple feed or our Spotify. All of those offer ad-free experiences. Just search for us. We're there. Click subscribe, and you're golden. You also get a week for free if you want to try it before you buy it. All right, well, we have some emails to get to before we get to my predictions, which you guys may convince me. I was going to do my predictions ahead of time, but sometimes I'm convinced by your logic rather than my own. So let's see if you can change my mind. So let's start off with Steve from Yorkshire, England. He says, I have two questions it'd be great to get your thoughts on. One, why do you think Cody's WWE Championship is still referred to as the Undisputed Championship? And now that we also have the World Championship on Raw. Well, I know that there's been a lot of confusion over the years and the lineage issues and gaps, because the championship has been merged and then detached, and then new championships have been created. Like remember the Universal Championship that was originally on Raw that got moved to SmackDown, and then Raw had to create a new championship, which they did for the World Championship. But then the championship got merged, and then it gets a little messy. But the reason is the Undisputed is because it got merged. So that's why I remember when Roman Reigns was carrying it, he was carrying the WWE and the Universal, and they merged that into a single Undisputed Championship. So that's why they did that. So secondly, I know you've spoken at length around the timing of LA Knight never being right to pull the trigger on a title run. With Seth unexpectedly getting injured in October, wouldn't that have been far enough away from WrestleMania to allow Knight to have a couple of months run and perhaps drop to Punk at Rumble if the plan is for Punk to go to WrestleMania as champ? Yeah, but here's the thing. Punk going against Knight, or rather having Knight win after after Seth was injured. The problem with that is WWE had been planning a heel to go into the season here, Survivor Series and Rumble, likely with a heel champion, likely with Punk as the heel champion moving forward. And with CM Punk winning, they were going to go to the next biggest name that they had, and that is CM Punk. Despite the fact that he's a babyface and Seth was a heel, they went with the next guy in line to capture the belt and then move forward into the season with it here. They need the biggest names possible for these PLEs. I mean, they are very much in in the effort of making sure these ESPN PLEs are viewed as much as they possibly can be. I mean, this is a big gamble on WWE's part, one that I think they'll win, but they want bigger names going into these kinds of PLEs that are on ESPN. And that's part of it, but also their plans moving into WrestleMania season, you can still have LA Knight be a part of it. I mean, CM Punk is a guy that is, dare I say, close to household name. I mean, most people have at least heard of him. Even if you're a non-wrestling fan, it's a good chance you at least have heard the name. So he's close to household name. He's a bigger name than LA Knight is. I mean, that's just a fact, despite the fact that many fans that have been watching for years now and have been behind LA Knight since his explosion a couple of years ago and is still going on, despite the fact that we want him to win, the WWE is probably like, well, yeah, he's a big star, but Punk's bigger. And Punk, to be fair, has not won a world championship since he's been back. LA Knight hasn't won one yet at all. So it still could happen. It just seems like the timing is never right. Where, you know, if they weren't going to also do Punk there, where would they have given Punk the championship? And maybe they didn't have plans for Punk to be a part of the Rumble. Again, I don't see CM Punk losing the belt anytime soon. I think he is probably going to at least go to Rumble with it. He could lose the belt at the Royal Rumble. Seth Rollins is targeting the February timeframe to return. And he said that on the Burt Kreischer, did I say that right? The comedian that loves to wear his, thinks it's funny to have a beer gut and do stand-up comedy. He's that guy. I personally don't actually find him that funny. I know a lot of people do. I find the lack of a shirt just kind of attention seeking, but that's me. Anyway, there's a lot also that came out of that podcast. I know you didn't ask this question, but with the biggest news coming out of that is by far not the fact that Seth was pursuing Becky and Becky was playing hard to get. And there's some fun little intricate things there, kind of like behind the scenes stuff with their relationship. But the fact that Becky Lynch outed somebody without actually giving the name, some dude on the roster is blackmailing women who sleep with him and also women that don't. And we don't know who that is. And of course, that's the fact that she's not giving a name leads us to believe that, it could be, I mean, she said it's a big name, so use your head. It could be anybody. But if you're not going to give a name, then what are you doing? I mean, why even bring it up? If you're not going to give a name, why are you even bringing it up? Also, I would say that that's a one-sided story, and I'm not saying she's lying, but I mean, there are two sides to every story. I'm not supporting that kind of behavior. If that's true, that you blackmail the women that do and don't sleep with you, or whatever the case, if you're targeted by this individual, if you sleep with them, things go bad. If you don't, then they go bad. I don't know. I mean, it's got to be a big name, because that means that person has some power and stroke in the company. I'm not supporting that kind of activity or promote it or endorse it. But also, it's very anonymous. It's anonymous. It's general. And it also is without detail, and also doesn't allow that person, whoever it may be, to defend themselves. I know we're all just looking at this faceless person as guilty. He's a guilty of immorality, which is all he's guilty of, if anything. And just this faceless, nameless person that Becky Lynch put out there. It's like, if you're going to do it, at least have the guts to say who it is, but, so now we're just supposed to just kind of guess who it is. And that's the biggest story that came out of it. All right. So secondly, I know you've spoken. Oh, I'm sorry. I already read that. Okay. Thanks, Steve. Oh my gosh. All right, Steve. Thank you. Let's go to another patron. Let's go to JM. JM says, if Roman goes after the world title from Punk, do you think we will get to see him more than when he was undisputed champion for over 1,600 days? I can't remember the exact number. It would make no sense to put the undisputed title on him and be an absent champion all over again. If those are creative plans, I hope we get to see him much more than before with the new storylines, not bloodline related. Thanks and happy holidays. Well, thank you, JM, and happy holidays to you too. Well, It's also another good reason to put the belt on Punk rather than Roman is Punk and Roman have a pretty storied history rather than LA Knight had he won versus Roman Reigns, who did hint on Raw that he's going to be at some point targeting CM Punk. I think that was the implication there. I don't see Roman Reigns ever going back to a full-time schedule. So if he ever wins a championship again, we know what we're in store for. But here's the thing. Number one, if Roman Reigns does win a championship again, I don't think fans are going to be as annoyed as they were. Number one, we went through 4.5 years, whatever it was, of Roman Reigns as an absentee champion. We know what we're going to get. We understand what we're buying here. So if fans accept that, then then it's on us to support it. If the fans are going to outright reject it again, you'll hear from them, I think, pretty quickly. But also, I don't think the run that Roman Reigns is going to have with whatever championships it is, the Undisputed or the World Title, hell, Intercontinental, whatever, that it's going to be a 4-year run. We're never going to see that again. In fact, I would argue some of us in our lifetime will never see a championship run, no matter the belt, that long again. Think about that. That was I think we forget just how historic that was. I have some criticisms of it, as you know, not that Roman didn't do a good job. We were getting bored of it. It was annoying. He wasn't there. And a lot of those days that we were just supposed to be so awed by, it's 500 days, it's 800 days, it's 900 days, 1,000 days, and a lot of those days he was just gone months at a time. I mean, he was stacking up 60, 90-day chunks of time where we didn't even see him. And he'd wrestle once and then he'd be gone for another month or two. So, a lot of that time was non-competitive day accumulation, so that's the one big criticism I have of it. It's like, I know you're not here every week. I don't expect you to be here every week, but he went from, I remember WrestleMania to SummerSlam without having a match. So it's inexcusable. But no, we won't have another 1,600-day run. I think if Roman wins a belt again, it'll be 6 months, But it's amazing. You go from all of this fan backlash of this historic run that was very, very long to the fans wondering, hey, could Roman be champion again? Wouldn't that be cool? It's amazing how fickle we are sometimes. All right. Let's go to DJ. We got his Survivor Series War Games predictions. And he says, for the women, you're going to predict that AJ Lee and her team wins. You're thinking that Stephanie Vaquer versus Nikki Bella for the women's world title. You're saying Vaquer retains. John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio for the IC title. You're thinking that Dirty Dom regains. The men's War Games match, Brock Lesnar's team gets the victory. 2 probable returns, Brie Bella and Randy Orton. As always, the card is subject to change. Yes. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy Survivor Series War Games. You as well. All right. Thank you, DJ. I like your picks. I'll leave it at that, and we'll get to much more of my analysis in just a moment. But let's go to Sam. Sam says, it looks like Roman having the world title is going to happen. Do you think he should have another long run? Maybe not as long as his previous, but perhaps 2 years or something like that. So it's funny. Wow, I got 2 duplicate questions, the exact same. I already answered this. I'm not being a jerk at all. I'm not going to rehash the answer. Although I will speak to your 2-year, estimate. No, like I said, 6 months. They won't do multiple years again. I don't even know again when's the next time someone will get to 2 years, much less 4. I don't know. I mean, you get to a 1 year. Let's put it at 1 year. When's the next time you'll see somebody with a 1-year title reign? Any championship on any brand? I don't know. So think about how crazy that is that Roman had it for nearly 4. It's insane. All right. Let's go to Kay. So Kay from Toronto says, SmackDown, did not watch. We were out with friends for dinner, but loved Drew attacking Cody. AJ joining the women's team, not surprised. Same with Becky. Raw, really starting to like Dom, Dirty Dom, and Eddie Guerrero's homage. The time with Mini Cena was funny and a bit edgy. Becky is exactly the female version of her husband. So annoying, but funny. Hope Penta is okay. Survivor Series predictions. You're thinking that Becky is up to something and will turn her back on her team, letting AJ win. Stephanie versus Nikki. I don't want this to happen, but Nikki might win and get an assist from her sister Brie. You're thinking that DD is going to win in his hometown, Dominic. But Cena's last Survivor Series, a loss. I know how the WWE loves their tournaments, and the Intercontinental one is 2026. Maybe, but where are they going? I don't know. Men's War Games. I want Team Brock to win, but I detest Team OTC. Fingers crossed. Hoping for lots of turns and general silliness. Thank you. You and Amanda for a good job. Cheers to you both. Thank you. Kay from Toronto, and cheers back at you with those 4 beers. That's good stuff. So, Kay, thank you for all that. And I really do feel you on the OTC team. There's not a lot of logic as to why a lot of these people are coming together other than, hey, it's War Games, and the idea that Brie Bella is going to come back, that has been floated. She has even hinted that she's going to be coming back. I don't understand. The only people that want the Bellas back are the Bellas. Who is out there dying for a Bella twin reunion? I mean, I'm being honestly serious here. I don't understand the gravitas, the need, the desire to have any of the Bellas back in WWE. I don't get it. And again, Nikki Bella has done a decent job upon her return, but I don't think the women's division is better off with her here. I don't think it's worse off, to be honest, either. She, to me, is just a net. She's a wash. She's a net zero gain. She doesn't add. She doesn't take away. Although I think she takes away in her presentation because she's a 40-some-year-old woman still doing a stripper dance and wearing a backwards hat, trying to pretend she's 22 still. But at the same time, she's improved on the mic better than I thought she would be, and in the ring, I think she's done better than I thought she was or would be, when she came back. But she's also, again, so just unlikable as an actual human being, not a wrestling character, a person. She's so unlikable outside that it all, to me, it negates itself, and she's just she doesn't really add anything for me. But no, maybe a lot of people out there disagree. That said, I mean, it'd be fun to see her as a champion. It'd be funner to see her as a champion because it would annoy, I think, a lot of people. All she'd have to do is just be herself. And I think she'd get massive heat. Now Becky Lynch being the exact female version of her husband. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that came out of that interview, and it is getting a lot of attention with the Bert Kreischer podcast that they did, where it was like they were sitting in his kitchen or something. And some of the conversation that they had was around the Cybertruck that Seth was driving around in LA, and he was getting a lot of hate from people in LA, which obviously is a very, very anti-Trump anything city. And when Elon was a part of Trump's team as a temporary employee and he was running Doge and all that, there was a lot of hate, if you remember, towards any of the Tesla vehicles. People's vehicles were being vandalized and all the rest, which of course is just so stupid. And Seth was to make sure clear that, hey, we support the environment. We don't support Elon. I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know about these two from their views and everything else, which of course is a conversation and a topic for a different day on a different podcast called The War on Truth. Check it out. I do that show. But that to me tells you everything you need to know, because you don't have to support a person, but again, you are indirectly supporting them because their vision is clearly to help the environment. If they are trying to, if they're making electric vehicles, obviously they want to make money, but they know that the push is towards electric and fewer carbon emissions. But also you are trying to separate yourself from something you can't be separated from. You can't. I mean, it's just so weak. It's so weak. I'll leave it there. All right. Well, that's it for the emails. We have one voicemail from DJ, And then we're going to get to my predictions on the backside. So let's do it.
This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag Show. Record to you live on a Wednesday morning. And you know what time it is. It's time to
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
That's right, folks. Joe Hendry is his name as I take it to my 72nd episode of the Joe Hendry Report. And like always, coming to you live from an undisclosed location. Now, before I take you to Week 2, Night 2, the pre-tape version for NXT Gold Rush from New York City, New York, I must mention a couple of things. The first thing was that you did ask a question, Matt, last week on the mailbag, if that was a photo of some sort of sweater or some sort of shirt. That was in regards to the NXT Gold Rush yellow towel. It was a waving towel. They had us waving the towel throughout the beginning of the show, doing parts of the show, even on pre-recorded segments. You're going to see the fans waving those yellow NXT Gold Rush towels. And they gave us two, so I still have the two of them. Those are going to be my souvenirs. Now, the second thing I want to mention is that we had some big news last week in the world of Joe Hendry, and that is, it was reported by Fightful Select and a couple of other sources out there that Joe Hendry is now on a main roster deal. But here's the other thing. The other part to this is that Joe Hendry will be receiving an annual salary above the main roster minimum, even though he's on NXT. So I did some research, and I digged up some numbers as to what is the main roster minimum in WWE. And here is the main roster minimum. The main roster minimum, which is basically someone that called up from NXT, is between $250,000 to $350,000. So Joe Hendry right now, he is making above the main roster minimum. Now the question is, how much money is Joe getting? And maybe, just maybe, Joe might be making maybe $500,000, $500,000, or he could be making $450,000. So those are the two key things in this main roster deal. But then you also have to factor in these three major points that WWE sees Joe Hendry as a top tier talent in NXT. And these are the three reasons that I found that Joe Hendry is positioned as a top tier talent. One, he competed at WrestleMania. Obviously, he had a match against Randy Orton. The second thing is that he's got merch, and the merch continues to sell. Recently, he just had merch from NXT Gold Rush with those two new Joe Hendry shirts, the official NXT Joe Hendry shirts with the Say His Name and He Appears. And then the third point is that Joe Hendry is a social media star. He has tapped it into his background as a musician, as a pop star, and he's created a lot of viral videos on the internet. And just like how I said last week, he is now becoming well known over the internet with his parody videos. So that's one of the ways that WWE sees Joe Hendry as a top tier talent, and most likely the reason why Joe Hendry is getting above the main roster minimum. So the question is, how much is Joe getting? My speculation, like I said, is that Joe could be probably making $450,000 annually, or $500,000 in $500K. Now I want to flip over to what took place last week on an episode of TNA Pro Wrestling, as I'm still continuing this NXT and TNA collaboration with this new storyline of an NXT invasion in TNA with Robert Stone and his NXT Outsiders. This, of course, was the fallout from Turning Point. The first part of this episode is that we had the former champion in Mike Santana. He opens the show and he vows to want to regain the TNA World title that was taken from him when he got pinned by Frankie Kazarian after, 54 seconds, I believe, and then he became the new TNA World Champion. So Mike Santana wants to get back the TNA World Championship, but then the most important thing is that he wants to take down these NXT thugs, these NXT outsiders, one by one by one. Then we get a pre-recorded outdoor segment from Robert Stone and his NXT outsiders, as Robert Stone says that when TNA came into NXT, they did their invasion. But when we flip the script, now we're the bad guys? Nah, we're not the bad guys. We're just doing the same thing that TNA did, but we are doing it only better. There was also a tease that Robert Stone is not the mastermind of the invasion on TNA, as there could possibly be a higher power that was the one that was pulling the strings to have these guys attack in TNA. But the question is, who is that higher power? Who could be the one that was not Robert Stone that created this invasion? And I like story angles like this. There's a lot more that's going to continue on, and I can't wait to see what happens next as this storyline continues to develop. But I know one of the people that is not involved in this angle is none other than Joe Hendry. And speaking of Joe Hendry, he put out a video on his socials talking about how he will be at an NXT live event on Saturday, November 22nd in Sanford, Florida. And speaking of that NXT live event, let's get to that NXT live event in which Joe Hendry was in a mixed tag team match with Thea Hale as they went up against Ariana Grace and Stacks, aka Chadwick Lorenzo. And Joe Hendry and Thea Hale got the victory in this mixed tag team match. And always remember this, folks, if you continue to say their name in Thea Hale and Joe Hendry, they might just randomly appear. Now let me take you to week 2, night 2 of NXT Gold Rush, the pre-recorded from last week. And some of the matches were taped before and after the live episode of NXT Gold Rush. Now, the first thing I want to mention has something to do with Joe Hendry, and this was a John Cena video promo as he was choosing the participants for the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge match. And just a quick sidebar, we were all disappointed when we realized that John Cena was not going to appear. So shout out to the guy that was sitting next to me, because he was saying that how would John Cena make an appearance on a Tuesday night in the theater of Madison Square Garden? So shout out to that guy who spoke some realization to us, stating that John Cena was not going to appear. But anyway, we get this video promo pre-recorded from John Cena. These are the men that John Cena have selected for the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge. And here are the names. The High Flyer in Javon Evans, TNA's Leon Slater, who is the current X Division champion, Dark State's own Dion Lennox, and my guy, Joe Hendry. The final person that will be a part of this Iron Survivor Challenge will be dictated in the main event of Miles Bourne versus Trick Williams. Both the men's and women's Iron Survivor Challenge will take place next week Saturday on December 6th, live from San Antonio, Texas. And most specifically, for the men's Iron Survivor Challenge, the winner of that match will get an NXT Championship opportunity at January's NXT New Year's Evil PLE. Now let me take you to a triple threat match for the TNA Knockouts title of Kalani Jordan versus Li Ying Li, formerly known as Xia Li, versus Jordan Grace. This match lasted 9 minutes and 33 seconds. And by the way, just another sidebar, this match was taped right after last week's live episode. And apparently, we have a new TNA Knockouts champion, Li Ying Li, as now the Knockouts Championship is going back to TNA in the hands of a TNA star. And now we fast forward to the main event, with the winner getting added to the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge match. And this main event was, like I said, was Miles Bourne versus Trick Williams. This match lasted 8 minutes and 28 seconds as Miles Bourne gets the victory to be the final addition to the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge match. But post-match, we get the appearance of all 4 members of Dark State as they come to the ring to attempt to attack Miles Bourne. However, we get the appearance of Joe Hendry, Leon Slater, and Javon Evans to even the odds as the show comes to an end with both squads having a stare down as we get ready for NXT Deadline, like I said, which is happening next week Saturday, December 6th, live from San Antonio, Texas. And always remember this, folks, if you continue to say his name, he might just randomly appear. Always remember to believe, say his name. Always remember the words that Joe Hendry says anytime, any place, at any show. And most importantly, always remember to do this.
Wave your hands from side to side and say, oh, I believe in Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry is so prestigious.
Once again, this is your guy, DJ Kuzmo. Have a blessed week. Be kind to one another. Stay safe, my friends. Believe and peace.
Well, DJ, thank you for clarifying that was a towel. I did not know that. I mean, that's cool, though. I mean, I think it was a very well-designed piece of merch. It just looked, because it was zoomed in so closely, that it was a sweater or something. But no, I appreciate that. And the Iron Survivor Challenge update you talked about and the implications of that, of what it can mean for New Year's Evil. Very good. Thank you for that. And the Joe Hendry salary minimum. Yeah, I can't blame WWE. Now, we all have to remember too, that while we're sitting at home and most of us are not making anywhere near that, you're thinking, oh my God, $500,000, $450 million or 450,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money. No matter who you are, but at the same time, you have to remember too that, and this, I'm not talking to you, DJ, just generally, that the expenses, the travel expenses for these men and women, the travel and everything else are not covered by WWE. They are footing their own bill for the travel. And so that 450,000 gets taken out pretty quickly on top of taxes. Take taxes and put those aside because they don't get taxed. You got to put some money aside for that. You have to, as I said, make sure that you put money aside for travel and other expenses, but also it is a lot of money, but by the time they're done, they're probably making 250. In Joe's case, 250,000, 300,000 by the time all said and done with taxes and everything else. So yeah, that's a lot of money, but also taxes and everything else I said. So the other thing though, that of course they have is merchandise, and that is a big deal too. I mean, the merchandise royalty checks that they get is another source of income. So yeah, I mean, they're doing well compared to most of us that are listening. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out as well. So thank you, DJ, for your updates. I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy Survivor Series. And let's get to those predictions for Survivor Series. I want to say they're brought to you by somebody. I don't know why I got the urge to say brought to you by blah, blah. There's some sponsor. We don't have a sponsor of today's episode, but I want to make sure that I get you the latest card. So sometimes the War Games card does change after I give you predictions. Hopefully nothing changes on tonight's SmackDown. But let's get to it. Let's get to, where do we start here? We'll start with the Women's World Championship. Stephanie Vaquer versus Nikki Bella. This one I know everybody's just assuming Stephanie wins, and she most likely, I think, does. But again, the wild card here is Brie Bella. Also is the fact that Nikki Bella is a freshly turned heel. So if you want to give her some momentum, what better momentum to give her than giving her the championship by having her cheat to win? I wouldn't say this is a slam dunk like most people are thinking here because of those two factors. And yes, most of us mentioned Brie Bella, which she's certainly a potential factor. But the fresh heel turn is another contributing factor. So what do I think ultimately? I mean, I could go against the grain and be that guy. But is there a stronger case to be made for Stephanie, who they're trying to get off the ground? And how would that make her look if she was to just lose the belt so quickly? If it was another month, I'd lean Nikki. But just because of the fact that is Stephanie, who's also, she's not an established star yet. She's still trying to find her footing and find her voice, which she hasn't done. She's not good on the microphone. So I would say they're still going to ride the wave with Stephanie. But I'm like 60 or 55, 45 confidence in that. I'm not very confident. So I could see Nikki winning, and I wouldn't be surprised if she did. But Stephanie probably retains in my mind because of that. So in a match that I think is going to be good, I don't think it's going to be great. This one could certainly have its flubs and its botches. So keep an eye out for that. The women have had a lot of those lately, and some of the men too, but particularly the women. It's just an observation. I know that observing things, and I'm just not supposed to. I'm not supposed to just mention things that are reality, but it's true. So I mention it. This one could have botches. So I hope they don't. I'm not rooting for that because it's embarrassing. Even as you watch it, it's embarrassing. So I hope they don't, but it's one that could easily be set up to do that. All right. AJ Lee, Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Io Sky, and Rhea Ripley take on Becky Lynch, Lash Legend, Nia Jax, and the Kabuki Warriors in the War Games match. This one actually is not easy for me. Both. Now again, here's the problem with the War Games matches as well. What's on the line? So you can make it, this team needs to win. Well, there's no consequence here. It's not like you're going to be banished from your brand or you're suspended for 30 days or you can't get a title shot for, until the end of the year. There's no penalty and there's no reward. I don't want to hear about pride. Okay. That is implied in every single match. This one, just outside of just, hey, these are baby faces versus heels. What makes this concept less interesting for both the men and the women, there's nothing on the line. So I'm not trying to take this down for you, but how can a match with so many big stars, essentially all of the biggest stars for the women's division and all of the biggest stars for the men's division in their respective matches, and yet there's no consequence, nothing to really strive for. It's just who's going to turn on who could turn on who could, who could abandon, who could desert their team and cost them the victory. That's really all we're looking at, really? I mean, I hope not. So I'm going to say also AJ's team wins as well on this. I know it's kind of just jumping on the bandwagon, but that's the way I kind of feel. AJ Lee, she's the de facto captain of this team. I think I would say benefit, but no matter who wins or who loses, no one's going to be hurt or helped by this, other than people are going to remember if it's an awesome match or not in terms of just the moves and the drama. And that's kind of it. So again, I think the match itself, the match quality is going to be very good. All of these women are very talented. It's also a big moment for Lash Legend, who by far is having the biggest match of her career. So for her, it could be a breakout night. I hope for her that she has some moments that we remember and go, okay, we can start to build a memory bank for her. We can start to understand who she is, what her moves are. If you've never seen her before, you can really start to understand that and understand her. Because for most of the fans that watch wrestling, most don't know who she was, or didn't know who she was until she debuted on the main roster. So there is that. And also there are storylines within storylines here of, does Charlotte and can Charlotte and Rhea coexist? Do they have some tense moments? Does someone turn on somebody? Does Alexa turn on somebody? How are all those little in-between moments going to happen? AJ Lee and Becky are clearly the two focal points on the opposing teams. How does that all work? So there are some fun things. Also, is there a potential return here of maybe Bianca Belair or Liv Morgan? Maybe. Is there a potential return of Chris Jericho here? Maybe. I'm not sold on that, but keep that in mind. All right. The Intercontinental Championship, John Cena, Dominic Mysterio. This is just going to be fun. This is just going to be so much fun. I expect a 15-minute match. A lot of just shenanigans by Dom trying to win, trying to cheat Cena out of his victory and out of that championship. This to me has to have John Cena lose. There's just no two ways about it. I don't want John putting up the Intercontinental title at the Saturday night main event on December 13th. I don't need him doing that. There's no need. Have him drop the belt back to Dom, and we can pretend that never happened. Dom should win. Now, how does Dom win? Well, he could just go over clean. What if Dom just went over clean? What about that? They're not going to do that, but it's possible. There'd be no bigger way to repay Dom for dropping the belt to Cena for a month than to have him get it back, but get it back cleanly. So think about that. They're not going to do that, but who wins? Dom. I mean, I would say 100% he has to win. And they could swerve us as they do because they just like to swerve us. And, see, you thought he's going to win. You're not going to be able to see the last month of John Cena's career and predict it all. You guys, yeah, they could do that. They could totally swerve us and John keeps the belt. I hope they don't. Dom needs it back more than John needs it. He now checked his box, which was the only reason they gave it to him. And now Dom can go on about his career and move on. But the match quality, I think, is going to be excellent. These two work well together. Dominic Mysterio is really finding his footing now. And hopefully after this, we can just officially transition him to a babyface and stop all the nonsense of back and forth and stop and start again. And just, god dang, put him in a babyface role and let him flourish. He's right there. So hopefully that's the tipping point here for Dom. Now, Is there a potential return here? Is there a potential return? Does Chris Jericho come out here? After John Cena gets his flowers because the crowd's, after he drops the belt to Dom, he'll stand in the ring and he'll do his usual waving to the crowd and looking up and acting emotional while the crowd says, "Thank you, Cena." And then do we have Chris Jericho come out? Do we have Edge come out? I would have said yes if the tournament wasn't still going on. So the tournament going on kind of pours cold water on that idea, because then you're thinking, well, wait, these guys aren't a part of the tournament. We want them to face Cena, or one of them to face Cena, and they're not in the tournament. So now the tournament becomes less interesting. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm putting it in the universe of possibility. Okay, let's go. The main event. CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and the Usos take on Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, and The Vision, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, with Logan Paul. Boy, is this match going to be brutal. It's going to be fun. Don't forget, the match only starts when all the men get in the ring, because what happens before apparently just doesn't matter. And I don't want to hear about the heel advantage. It doesn't matter because, as we said, the match doesn't actually start, and you can't eliminate anybody until the match starts. So the advantage actually doesn't matter, because by the time the match starts, the odds are even because everyone has to be in the ring. It's the most asinine rule I've ever, and really just kind of delusion that there's any kind of advantage that I've ever heard. It's stupid. But when you look at the talent in this ring, the future, the present, the past being Punk, the past being Brock, the present being Roman, the present being Drew, the present being Cody, the present really still kind of being the Usos in a way, but the future of Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul, you kind of have all three here in this match. It's fascinating. When you look at kind of the three generations of where these men are, you have the past, present, and future all wrapped up into this one massive War Games match. Brock's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Brock, I'm sure, is going to have some tense moments with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and Logan Paul. Though, I mean, it's going to be really fun to see how he works with his own team, because Brock is not a team guy. Also, how do things work with Roman Reigns and Cody for the first time? Well, not the first time, but one of the few times being on the same team. And the same thing with Roman, who's eyeing Punk's belt. How does that work? There's a lot of potential turns, swerves, tempers flaring, that kind of thing in this match. There's a lot of potential here of that happening. There's also potential of Chris Jericho. Maybe Chris Jericho comes out. He has nothing to do with John Cena. He just is coming out like Punk did at the Survivor Series in 2023. Because if you remember, it's been 2 years exactly since Punk returned to WWE. So, some fun moments coming tomorrow. Really, really fun, I think. Great matchups in terms of wrestling quality. In terms of potential returns, I think it's limited, but it's there. We already got Brock back. We got Roman back. We got Cody. We got Punk. We got all the names you expect, the usual suspects. But again, you have on the women's side a potential Liv Morgan, a potential Brie Bella, if you care, a potential of did I say Liv Morgan? Yeah, I did. Bianca Belair. You have the potential of Chris Jericho, the potential, although very unlikely, Edge. So do I think any of them are going to return? Maybe one out of the four I mentioned, and the most likely, unfortunately, is Brie. So I would anticipate no returns, just the people that are advertised, and then you won't be disappointed. So should be a fun night. One that, again, I'm telling you, will have WrestleMania implications for some of the stories. When you go back, when we get to April, mid-April, you're going to be able to pinpoint some of the things that happened at Survivor Series with, again, I think these are major storylines. Some of the major storylines that roll into WrestleMania 42, you could pinpoint back to Survivor Series here at the end of November. Because before you know it, guys, we are about to enter Royal Rumble season. We are very close. We are very close. We're a month, less than a month. Because after, let me look at the schedule. WWE's PLE schedule. Let me look here, because I'm scrolling. All right, we've got, there we go, Survivor Series, which comes to us from Petco Park in San Diego, if you care about that, keeping score at home. We then have Saturday night's main event, the infamous Saturday night main event with John Cena's final match in Washington, D.C. on December 13th. And then we have the next Saturday night. We actually have two. Okay, this is according to the schedule here. We have two back-to-back Saturday night main events. We have the one on December 13th we all know about in 2 weeks. Then we have one on January 24th from Montreal at the Bell Center. Saturday night main event. But then a week later is the Royal Rumble. So sadly in Saudi Arabia. Very, very sadly. I mean, yeah, I don't want to get into that again. But so really, after tonight or after tomorrow night, the next PLE is the Royal Rumble. And there are two pit stops. Again, there are two Saturday night main events as I record this. I'm looking at the schedule. There are two Saturday night main events that are just kind of like glorified SmackDown and Raws that have delivered on very good wrestling, but very little in terms of substance of big returns, big moments, very little of that. Although we're guaranteed one on December 13th with John Cena's final match. I think, Saturday main event in Montreal, I'm sure that might have some implications, but the real next pit stop though, guys, is the Royal Rumble. So if you want to look past Saturday night main events, we're essentially in Royal Rumble season as of Sunday. In 2 days, we're in the Royal Rumble season, which comes to us January 31st. So 2 months seems like forever, but it goes by in a blink, does it not? It goes by in a blink. So there you go. A little bit of update there on the PLE schedule, on some potential returns, my thoughts, your predictions, which I'm pretty much in lockstep with. Just watch out for the Brie Bella interference and Nikki potentially winning the belt. There's I don't think, an insignificant chance to win for Nikki. So to recap, my predictions, Stephanie Vaquer retains, but just barely in my odds favoring in my mind. The men win their, Team Brock wins. I never gave my prediction. So Team Brock wins. The women, I think Team AJ wins. John Cena drops the belt to Dominic. That's what I think. All right. Well, that'll do it. I hope everybody enjoys the Survivor Series event, enjoys their weekend. Not spending too much money on Black Friday, I hope. As we crawl into the weekend here, I don't even know what the hell day it is anymore with all of the damn holidays and my work schedule. I'm sure you might feel the same. I don't know what the hell day it is anymore. I need a reset. But I hope all of you enjoy this weekend. And if you want to go ad-free, Patreon is a good place. You can also go to Apple or on Spotify and follow us there, or on X at wrestling_audio. Alrighty. Thanks, everybody. Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.